The events begin with a young girl named Malak who is preparing to celebrate her birthday with her family. Unfortunately, her joy is short-lived when her mother, Jola, receives devastating news. Her husband, Inspector Mohammed, has been killed by the Albin family. Shocked by the tragedy, Jola collapses to the ground, and Malak is left crying helplessly. As time passes, Malak grows up. She is later seen visiting the graves of her parents, visibly blaming herself for their loss. She now works as a nurse at a hospital and has changed her name to Aziza. Among her patients is a man in a coma who is eventually revealed to be her brother, Yagit. However, her colleague at the hospital is unaware of this relationship and believes he is just another patient. Aziza tells her colleague that he is an orphan with only one sister, to which the colleague responds that his sister abandoned him and never came to visit, presumably because she lost hope in his recovery. Aziza, shocked, insists that her sister, i.e. herself, would never abandon her brother. She shares that Yagit once had a promising future as a professional boxer. Her colleague, surprised, asks what could have led him to this state. It is revealed that a weapon was found in Yagit's boxing bag, which led to his imprisonment. The backstory unfolds. Yagit had discovered the identity of their father's killer, someone from the Albin family. In an effort to silence him, the Albins targeted him just as they had his father. While in prison, Yagit encountered the man responsible for his father's death, Belkin. Belkin ordered an attack on Yagit, who was brutally beaten and left in a coma for 6 months, resulting in his current condition. Aziza later visits the prison on a routine vaccination day and learns that Belkin is among those receiving the vaccine. Coincidentally, this is also the day of his release after serving 18 years. His entire family gathers to welcome him. As he exits the prison, a sniper fires from a nearby building, but the bullet hits Cardle's brother, who had rushed to shield him. At that moment, Aziza finishes her work at the prison and, while leaving, witnesses the scene. She rushes to help Kartal, whose heart has stopped. After several attempts, she succeeds in resuscitating him. He is taken to the hospital and rushed into surgery. Aziza's colleagues praise her for saving his life, and the media floods the hospital to cover the story. Belkin's aunt approaches Aziza and asks her to stay with Kartal in the operating room to prevent another attempt on his life. Aziza hesitates but ultimately agrees. Following surgery, she remains by Kartal's side to protect him. Her nurse friend brings her clothes, as she has been staying at the hospital continuously. Suddenly, Kartal regains consciousness and starts asking questions about his whereabouts, how long he has been there, and where his family is. He insists he must leave because his family is in danger. Aziza tells him he cannot leave and administers a sedative. Meanwhile, Belkin is shown mistreating his wife. Their marriage was arranged solely for financial gain and to preserve a business alliance between their families. His wife confesses she hates him and calls him weak for mistreating her just to please his father. Kartal, now conscious, becomes curious about Aziza and learns from Yaman that she is the nurse who saved his life. Kartal questions why she was at the prison that day. She explains she was there as part of the routine vaccination program. Yaman confirms she has had no outside contact, including with the police. Later, the father of Yildiz, Belkin's wife, arrives to see his granddaughter and asks to meet his grandson as well. He is reunited with Belkin after 18 years and sits down with Alexander, the father of both Belkin and Kartal. Asia informs Yildiz's father that Kartal has been in the hospital for a week, and they wonder if the shooter has been identified. The family receives a call from the hospital's chief physician announcing that Kartal has regained consciousness, prompting a wave of relief and joy. Yildiz's father and Belkin's father begin discussing the future of their business empire. Barbros, Yildiz's father, tells Adam to report on all upcoming shipments and deals, including those related to the port, construction, gambling, weapons, and betting. All reports and operational control are to be handed over to Belkin. He also instructs Adam to identify all potential rivals and enemies. As he leaves, he declares that he will avenge Kartal, solidifying Belkin's ascent to power as he prepares to take over the family estate. Yildiz's daughter is approached by her grandfather, who asks her if she is well. She replies that she is fine, but he senses something is troubling her. Before leaving, his grandson approaches to greet him. At that moment, they receive news that Kartal has regained consciousness, prompting the family to head to the hospital. However, the grandfather, Barbros, chooses to take his grandson elsewhere, fearing it might be dangerous for him to accompany them to the hospital, so he takes him to Paris instead. Meanwhile, the doctors inform Aziza that they intend to remove Yagit's life support, as they see no hope for his recovery. Distraught, Aziza breaks down in tears. In her anguish, she attempts to confront or possibly kill Belkan. She even mistakenly enters the men's restroom. When questioned about her presence, she replies that she is searching for a child who fled from receiving a vaccine. Despite her attempts, she fails to administer it and grows increasingly frustrated. Suddenly, someone approaches her from behind, covers her mouth, and lifts her. She panics at first, but the man reassures her. He turns out to be Okan, a friend of her late father, who was with him on the mission during which he was killed. Okan also reveals himself to be the person who recently shot at Cardle, though his true target was Belkan. Okan questions Aziza about her presence at the hospital. She explains that she works there as a nurse. He tells her they have been monitoring the hospital for a week, and that he deliberately kept his distance to avoid endangering her. He then informs her that the man she saved, recently released from prison, is his brother. Okan recounts the events of the series' opening scene. On her birthday, Aziza's father was killed by the Alban family during a mission, shattering her happiness. He explains that the Albans had an informant embedded in law enforcement and are a well-protected family. He describes in detail how her father was ambushed and shot on that day. The Alban family seized a shipment, unaware that it was a trap. Inspector Mohammed, Aziza's father, was shot and collapsed. Okan continues, saying that as he opened his eyes during the incident, he saw Iskandar cabin with his two sons, Belkan and Cardle. In one of Iskandar's hands was a double-headed eagle pendant, the family symbol. In the other hand was a weapon. He offered the weapon to one of his sons, suggesting that one would commit the murder and go to prison, while the other would inherit the family's legacy. Cardle reached for the gun, but Iskandar had already made up his mind and gave it to Belkan. Iskandar, knowing Belkan was not fit for responsibility, chose to keep Cardle out of prison. He prioritized the younger son over the elder, sealing their destinies on the day Aziza's father died. Okan warns Aziza that Iskandar Alban is an extremely dangerous man feared by all, even by law enforcement agencies. However, Aziza declares that she is not naive. She knows exactly who killed her father. When Okan calls her by her original name, Malik, she firmly reminds him her name is Aziza now and not to forget it. He asks her why she saved Cardle if she knows the truth. Aziza responds that she did it to stay close to them, that she wants Belkan to come to the hospital too, where she can keep them all under surveillance. Okan realizes that Aziza made this decision after Yagit fell into a coma. She confirms, saying the Alban family deprived her of a father, a mother, and now a brother. She wants Belkan to suffer the same fate, to lose his brother. That, to her, is justice. Aziza looks at Yagit lying in his hospital bed and recalls the moment he discovered that Belkan, from the cabin family, was responsible for their father's death. She had told him the truth. Later, the police came to their home, found a weapon, and arrested Yagit. Aziza says he was punished for a crime he did not commit, a crime they orchestrated. Despite Okan's efforts to dissuade her, Aziza insists she must infiltrate their world to take action. Okan warns her that attempting to poison them would destroy her, and if Iskandar found out, he would kill her himself. Aziza replies that the poison she used to act slowly, giving her time to disappear before it takes effect. Okan offers to take on the risk himself. In the following scene, Cardle attempts to walk again. Despite warnings that it's dangerous, he leaves his room. Aziza confronts him and asks if he plans to keep being stubborn. One of Cardle's men hands her an envelope filled with money as a gesture of thanks. Aziza throws it into the trash and tells him he cannot leave the hospital. She informs the others that if Cardle leaves, his liver condition could worsen, possibly requiring a transplant. The decision is now in their hands. Cardle's father orders everyone not to restrain him. If he collapses, they should carry him back to his bed. He ends up fainting and is returned to his room, where he must remain until fully recovered. Aziza warns Cardle that any further attempt to get up might result in permanent unconsciousness. But he proves her wrong by walking without losing consciousness. Cardle's father then asks Aziza to accompany them home, stating that since she saved his son, she should continue her mission. Just as she is about to respond, Cardle interrupts and instructs Tuna to call the hospital's chief physician. A report or annual leave is arranged to justify the nurse's extended absence, as she is to remain with the family for a while. Aziza indeed goes to the house with them and begins executing her plan for revenge. Meanwhile, Belkin prepares to assume control over the estates of both families. Aziza successfully administers a lethal injection to Belkin, the same man responsible for her father's murder. As she attempts to escape to see her brother, Yildiz discovers her secret. Aziza tells her she no longer cares what happens to her. Inspector Okan arrives at the Alban residence, demanding to see Cardle. When Yildiz refuses, he insists on entering himself. Iskandar confronts Okan and says, "Do you know why I didn't kill you 18 years ago? Because I knew you'd never be a real man." Okan pleads for Cardle, claiming he would be safer with them. Cardle then appears and tells Okan he is already present. Okan accuses Cardle of kidnapping the Goya family. Cardle refuses to allow Okan to take anyone from the house and declares that he will not permit such actions. Okan draws his gun and gives him a choice: come willingly or be shot. Cardle, undeterred, approaches him and replies, "That's the only way you'll take me. I won't leave this house alive." Simultaneously, Yildiz leads Aziza away. When Aziza asks where she's taking her, Yildiz avoids answering. Aziza escapes, and Yildiz chases after her. Back at the house, Okan asks Cardle where his brother is, but before Cardle can answer, a scream is heard from inside. Everyone rushes in to find Belkin lying in a pool of blood. Cardle checks if he is alive and urgently calls for the nurse, but Aziza is nowhere to be found. We then see Aziza still fleeing from Yildiz, who eventually corners her with a gun. Yildiz strikes her and demands she come with her. Belkin is rushed to the hospital while Okan continues searching for Aziza around the house. Yildiz takes Aziza aside and accuses her of attempting to run her over, questioning whether she descended when she saw Aziza killing Belkin. She also asks if the weapon she carried was intended to kill her own husband. Meanwhile, Iskandar requests his weapon, preparing to leave. Before he departs, he tells Cardle to find out who attacked his brother. Yildiz informs Aziza that she will take her to her father, who will either help or destroy her. Aziza asserts that she refuses to be anyone's pawn. Yildiz warns her to think about those she loves before making any rash decisions. At that moment, Omar arrives, pointing a gun at both Yildiz and Aziza, declaring that they have committed their crime and must now pay. Yildiz tells him to be respectful and then accuses Aziza of being the one who harmed Belkin. Omar states he will take her to Mr. Iskandar to confess, but Yildiz shoots him before he can act. Hearing the gunshot, both Okan and Cardle rush to locate the source. Cardle finds Aziza and Yildiz and demands an explanation. Upon discovering Omar's shot, Yildiz claims she found him attempting to kidnap and possibly kill Aziza, and that she feared for their lives. She adds that he was the one who attacked Belkin. One of Cardle's men is then ordered to take both Aziza and Yildiz to the family's safe house in Riva. When Aziza suggests going to the police, Cardle insists that she will follow his instructions. They go to the house as planned. Inspector Okan later arrives at the scene of Omar's death and questions Cardle about his identity and whether he was the one who assaulted Belkin. Cardle confirms that Belkin is still alive and that the deceased man was his brother's bodyguard. Okan asks who killed the guard, and Cardle claims it was one of his own men. Okan then questions why some family members are missing, particularly Cardle's brother's wife and the nurse. Cardle replies that his brother's condition is critical and that a nurse is attending to him. Okan expresses frustration and tells Cardle to focus on his duties and secure the bodies rather than asking questions. Elsewhere, Barbaros questions Adam about his daughter Yildiz. He initially suspects Yildiz, not Aziza, was responsible for the attack on Belkin. Adam informs him that Belkin is still alive, though unlikely to survive. Barbaros warns that if Yildiz is implicated, it could ignite a war with the Alban family, and that they would take his grandson, Kuzi, away immediately. He declares that he will not allow the only male heir of his bloodline to be lost. Cardle visits Kuzi, the son of his late brother, to check on him. Kuzi inquires about the recent gunfire. Cardle assures him that it was nothing. Then, Kuzi's younger sister arrives and asks where their mother is. The little girl fears the police may have taken her, but just then, their mother calls. Kuzi encourages her to answer the phone. Yildiz tells Aziza to stick to the same story, but Aziza refuses to lie and says she will not be like them. Elsewhere, Jewel informs Tuna that she saw Belkin in Aziza's room. Asia overhears the conversation. Later, Iskandar declares his intent to marry Cardal to Asia so they can produce heirs. However, Cardal is focused on discovering who attempted to murder Belkin. His investigation leads him to suspect Barbros, whom he confronts. Barbros denies the accusation and says if any evidence surfaces, he will dissolve their partnership. Asia tells Cardal that it was Aziza who orchestrated everything, including poisoning Belkin. In response, Aziza takes the remaining poison from Asia and drinks it to prove it is harmless. Once Cardal and Asia leave the room, Asia quickly gives Aziza an antidote injection. Finally, it is revealed that Belkin has died,